Namaste and welcome to Daily News Simplified, the what, why, and how of newspaper reading.
Now, the articles that we're going to be discussing today has been listed in the index presented on the screen, and the timestamping for the same has been provided in the description section below. Now, let us begin with today's discussion. Now, we have taken this article from page 3. Now, what we need to remember from this article for your prelims examination is about the festival Mong Mong. Now, Mong Mong means togetherness forever. Now, it is a festival of the Sangtam tribe in Kifre district of Nagaland. And the main purpose of this festival is to celebrate togetherness, forgiveness, and to pray for a bountiful harvest. And apart from this, another fact that you should remember for your prelims examination is that this festival is held in the month of September. So now hopefully up till here you understood the basic facts with regards to the Mong Mong festival of Nagaland, wherein this festival is held in the month of September and is a festival of the Sangtam tribe in the Kifare district of Nagaland. And the main purpose of this festival is to celebrate togetherness, forgiveness, and pray for a bountiful harvest. Now, it is relevant for you to remember basic facts about this festival because previously questions have been asked with regards to various traditions which are followed in the northeastern states. And this question was asked in the prelims of 2018. Well, a question was asked in the prelims of 2017 with regards to Manipuri Sankirtana, which is a song and dance form in the state of Manipur. And in similar terms, a question was asked in the prelims of 2015 with regards to the unique living root bridges are found in which state, wherein the correct answer to this question would be A. Meghalaya. And it is within this context wherein the cultural history of the northeastern states are asked in the prelims examination, and it is within that context that the Mong Mong festival becomes relevant for your prelims examination. And so now with this, let us move on to the next article. Now we have taken this article from page 7. Now what this article talks about. Now, the Niti Aayog has in a report urged the Government of India to set up a dedicated mission to salvage and revive the spring water system in the Himalayan states. Now, this Indian Himalayan region includes 10 hill states which are Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh, Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Nagaland, Tripura, and 2 partial hill states which are Assam and West Bengal. Now, apart from this, the spring water system is also found in the Western Ghats. But this report in particular talks about the spring water system in the Indian Himalayan region. And the Niti Aayog has urged the Government of India to set up a dedicated mission. So as this dedicated mission ensures the conservation of springs, as spring water is a source of both drinking water and for irrigation in the Indian Himalayan region. Now what this article and this report further highlight are the various threats to the spring water system in the Himalayan region. When the first threat highlighted in the article is because of development due to rapid urbanization, and the second threat to spring water system in the Himalayan region is climate change. And apart from this, according to the report, half of the perennial springs in the Himalayan region have dried up or become seasonal. And apart from this, there is also a decrease in the water's discharge in the spring water systems. Apart from this, it has led to acute water shortages across the major cities in the Himalayan states such as Shimla. Wherein hopefully up till here you understood the threats to the spring water system in the Indian Himalayan region as highlighted in the Niti Aayog report, wherein the first threat highlighted is due to development because of urbanization. The second threat to spring water system in Himalayan region is climate change, wherein one of the major factors of climate change is that half of the perennial spring water systems have dried up, and there is also a decrease in water discharge, wherein all of these factors together have led to acute water shortages in major cities in the Himalayan region, such as the recent water shortage in Shimla. Now, apart from this, the report has highlighted various steps that can be undertaken to improve the situation, wherein the Niti Aayog report has proposed a future 8-year program to overhaul the spring water management in the Himalayan region, wherein the first main step given in the Niti Aayog report is to prepare a digital atlas of country's spring sheds. Now, spring shed is an area within a ground and it contains a water basin that contributes to the spring flow. So, if you take a look at this image, the recharge zone, and if it rains in the recharge zone, this water then recharges the aquifer that lays below the ground. And this water may discharge to a different area, which may depend on the level and the flow of the hill. And so springshed management follows a valley to valley approach, wherein under springshed management it identifies the aquifer, the recharge area, and the discharge area, wherein all these three aspects may fall within the boundaries of 2 or more different villages. and therefore effective springshed management that has been proposed by the Niti Aayog report entails cooperation between the various villages that lie within the springshed area of a particular spring. And by ensuring effective springshed management, it can ensure water security in the Himalayan region. So now hopefully you've understood as to what is springshed and what is springshed management. Apart from this, the Niti Aayog report has proposed the training of para-hydrogeologists for grassroots conservation. And the third and the final main proposal given by the Niti Aayog report, and as highlighted in the article, is the introduction of a spring health card. So now hopefully you've also understood the main proposal as given in the Niti Aayog report for the future 8-year program to overhaul the spring water management system in the Indian Himalayan region, wherein the first step is to prepare a digital atlas of country's spring sheds. The second step would be to train para-hydrogeologists for grassroots conservation. And the third and the final step is the introduction of a spring health card. Now this article and this Niti Aayog report would first be placed in GS paper 1 within the section Geography and would also be placed in GS paper 3 within the section Environment and more specifically in the subsection Conservation. Wherein a question for practice is the recent water crisis in Shimla has highlighted the urgent need for water conservation in the Indian Himalayan region, highlight the threats to Himalayan spring water system and suggest the required steps to ensure its revival. Wherein you can answer this question with the help of the Niti Aayog report and the explanation of the article in this section. And so now with this, let us move on to the next article. Now we have taken the data point from page 9. Now there are two aspects from this data point that you need to remember for your prelims examination. The first aspect is that the India Wage Report is formed by the International Labour Organization. Now you need to know that the International Labour Organization gives out an India Wage Report because previously questions have been asked in the prelims examination, such as the prelims of 2018, which had asked which gives out the Rule of Law Index, wherein the answer to this question is the World Justice Project. While a question was asked in the prelims of 2017, which had asked which gives out the Global Gender Gap Index, wherein the answer to this question is the World Economic Forum. While a question was asked in the prelims of 2016 on the indicators of the Global Hunger Index report, wherein the answer to this question is 1, 2 and 3. While a question was asked in the prelims of 2015 with regards to the global economic prospects, and the answer to this question is D, the World Bank, which publishes the Global Economic Prospects report. And it is within that context wherein year on year questions have been asked in the prelims examination as to who produces which report. And it is because of this reason that you need to remember the various reports that are highlighted in the Hindu newspaper or the Indian Express or any other paper that you follow, and as to who prepares those reports. Wherein from today's newspaper you need to remember that the India Wage Report is prepared by the International Labour Organization. The second aspect that you need to remember from this data point is the observation of this report. Where according to this data point, the real average daily wages for various professions has increased by 93%. And this wage increase of 93% has been from the year 1993-94 till the year 2011-12. And the highest increase has been in the category legislators, officers and managers. Now this category includes professionals and politicians. So now hopefully you've also understood the observation as given in the India Wage Report, wherein the real average daily wages for various professions has increased by 93% between the year 1993 to 94 till the year 2011-12. And this increase in real average daily wages has been highest in the legislators, officers and managers category. However, the main aspect that you need to remember for your prelims examination is who prepares the India Wage Report. And so now with this, let us move on to the next article. Now we have taken this article from the editorial page on page 8. Now what this article provides are the various positives and the various concerns with regards to BIMSTEC. Now the basic background of BIMSTEC has already been explained in a previous DNS video. So what we'll do is understand the various positives and the various concerns as highlighted by the author with regards to BIMSTEC. Now the first positive highlighted by the author is BIMSTEC intends to draft a charter for its organization, wherein the charter provides the basic aim, purpose, objectives of an organization. The second aspect that came out of the Kathmandu Declaration is BIMSTEC would form a permanent working committee. And this permanent working committee would guide the engagement of BIMSTEC between the various summits. Wherein what generally happens is that at one summit, the various head of leaders of the BIMSTEC members end up meeting and forming a plan on how to take BIMSTEC forward. However, all these initiatives and announcements end up in the cold storage between two successive summits of BIMSTEC, and it is for this period that BIMSTEC intends to form a permanent working committee that can take forward the various initiatives, future plans, and other aspects that are discussed and decided upon in various summits, so as there is no lull period in the engagement in BIMSTEC between the time period of two consecutive summits of BIMSTEC. The third positive aspect is that there would be additional financial and human resources to the BIMSTEC Secretariat, which is located in Dhaka, Bangladesh. The fourth aspect would be the formation of a BIMSTEC Development Fund. The fifth main positive aspect is that BIMSTEC member countries have decided to prioritize various core areas. Now, what currently happens is that BIMSTEC has 14 priority areas, and the member countries of BIMSTEC have decided to prioritize various core areas upon which they can prioritize the additional financial and human resource allocation, wherein the country of Thailand has proposed various core areas, wherein the first one being trade and investment, the second being transport and communication, third being counter-terrorism and transnational crimes, fourth being science and technology, and the fifth being people-to-people contact. However, we'll have to wait and see as to which areas BIMSTEC member countries end up prioritizing as core areas. And the sixth and the last positive aspect, as highlighted by the author with reference to the Kathmandu summit of BIMSTEC, is the signing of a MOU on grid interconnection, wherein the BIMSTEC member countries have decided to link the various electricity grids of each country. So now hopefully you've understood the six main positive aspects that have been highlighted by the author that have been agreed upon in the Kathmandu summit of BIMSTEC, wherein the first positive aspect is BIMSTEC intends to draft a charter so as to provide the various aims, principles of the BIMSTEC member countries. The second positive aspect is to form a permanent working committee to guide BIMSTEC. The third positive aspect is the additional financial and human resource allocation to the BIMSTEC Secretariat, which is located in Dhaka, Bangladesh. The fourth main positive aspect is the formation of the BIMSTEC Development Fund. The fifth aspect, as highlighted by the author, is that the BIMSTEC member countries intend to prioritize various core areas from the 14 priority areas that have been first agreed upon by BIMSTEC member countries. And the sixth and the last positive aspect, as highlighted by the author, is the signing of the MOU on grid interconnection, wherein the BIMSTEC member countries would connect the various electricity grids of each country. Now let us understand the various concerns that have been highlighted by the author. Now the first concern raised by the author is that the BIMSTEC Free Trade Agreement has not moved forward. Wherein according to the author, in the Kathmandu summit of BIMSTEC, there has been no major movement forward with regards to having a free trade agreement between the BIMSTEC member countries. The second concern highlighted by the author is that various BIMSTEC initiatives, such as the Energy Center, which was agreed upon in 2009, are not being operationalized. And the third and the last concern raised by the author is that connectivity still remains the major roadblock in ensuring greater cooperation between the BIMSTEC member countries. Wherein the author highlights the example that the motor vehicle agreement or the coastal shipping agreement between the BIMSTEC member countries are yet to be signed. Wherein now hopefully up till here you've also understood the concerns that the author has highlighted with regards to BIMSTEC. Wherein the first concern highlighted by the author is that the free trade agreement between the BIMSTEC member countries has still not moved forward in the Kathmandu summit. The second concern highlighted by the author is that the various BIMSTEC initiatives suffer from slow implementation, wherein the author has given the example of the BIMSTEC Energy Center, which was set up in 2009 but is yet still to be operationalized. And the third main concern highlighted by the author is that there is still a lack of connectivity, which is still a major hurdle in cooperation between the BIMSTEC member countries, wherein the BIMSTEC member countries has still not agreed upon in the Kathmandu summit on the motor vehicle agreement or the coastal shipping agreement. Now BIMSTEC and this article would be placed in GS paper 2 within the sections International Relations and within the subsection Regional Groupings involving India and affecting India's interest. Now this is a question for your practice based on the background of BIMSTEC. Now you need to understand that the various statements that are given in a question in the prelims examination generally consist of two aspects. Either those statements are based on facts or those statements are based on concept. Now the first two statements given in this question are based on concept, while the third statement is based on the aspect of being fact. And you can give the correct answer in the comment section given below. And so now with this, let us move on to the next article. Now we have taken this article from page 5. Now what this article talks about is that the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare has placed a draft of Charter of Patient Right in the public domain for suggestions. Now the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare intends to implement this charter through the various state governments so as to allow proper health care to patients by various clinical establishments such as hospitals. Now, the first main objective of this charter is that it seeks to consolidate all the legal provisions into a single document, wherein currently there are various legal provisions with regards to patient rights. And what this Charter of Patient Rights would do is to consolidate all of these legal provisions with regards to patient rights into a single document. The second objective of this charter is that it seeks to provide for adequate protection of patient rights. Apart from this, the charter also aims to provide a dedicated regulator which would govern the healthcare delivery system in the interest of the patients. And the fourth and the last main objective of this charter is that it seeks to generate widespread public awareness and to inform them of their patient rights, which they can seek from the government and various healthcare providers. Now let us understand the various rights that might be provided by the charter. Wherein the first right to be provided would be right to adequate information, wherein the patient should be given information with regards to the nature and the cause of his illness, what is the diagnosis by the clinical establishment of his disease, and similarly the patient should also get the information with regards to the proposed management and investigation of his illness. Apart from this, the patient also has the right to records and reports, including the investigation reports that have been prepared by the clinical establishment. Apart from this, as per the Supreme Court, all hospitals, which includes both private and public hospitals, are duty bound to provide basic emergency medical care, and every injured person have the right to get emergency medical care as per the order of the Supreme Court in any public or private hospital. Apart from this, a patient also has the right to informed consent prior to any potential hazardous test or treatment which the clinical establishment may provide. The Charter also wants to ensure that all patients have the right to confidentiality, human dignity, and privacy regarding their health condition and treatment. Apart from this, the Charter also wants to ensure that every patient has the right to seek a second medical opinion. Now, moving forward with some other rights that have been provided under the Charter is that the patient would have a right to transparency in rates and care that are provided by the clinical establishment. Moreover, every patient would have the right to receive a treatment without any form of discrimination, which would be based upon his or her illness, religion, caste, ethnicity, gender, age, sexual orientation, and of linguistic or geographical or social origin. Apart from this, the patient would also have the right to choose alternative treatment options if they're available. Moreover, this draft Charter of Patient Rights also intends for right to protection of patients involved in clinical trials, wherein the clinical trials have to be in compliance with the protocols of the Good Clinical Practice Guidelines which have been issued by the Central Drug Standard Control Organization, which is under the Directorate General of Health Services. And the last main right which has been given in the draft Charter of Patient Rights is that every patient and their caregivers would have the right to give their feedback, make comments, or lodge a complaint about the healthcare that is being provided in a clinical establishment. So now hopefully you've understood the various rights that have been given in the draft Charter of Patient Rights. Now the draft Charter of Patient Rights would be placed in GS Paper 2 within the section Social Justice and within the subsection Issues relating to development and management of health. And apart from this, you also need to understand that this news is currently in transition, wherein it is still a draft charter which is open for public comments, and we'll have to wait and see as to what will be the final released Charter of Patient Rights. And so now with this, let us move on to the next article. Now we have taken this article from page 2. Now the reason this article is in the news is because Atali, a small town in Haryana, had the flagging off of the inaugural freight train on the dedicated freight corridor. So what we'll try to understand from this article are basic facts with regards to the dedicated freight corridor, and we'll try to understand these facts from the perspective of your prelims examination. Now the dedicated freight corridor project will consist of two main corridors, wherein the first corridor would be the Western Dedicated Freight Corridor. And if you take a look at this image, the freight corridor, which is colored in red from New Dadri to New JNPT, would form the Western Dedicated Freight Corridor. And therefore the Western Corridor would be from Uttar Pradesh till Maharashtra. And apart from this, another fact that you should remember about the Western Dedicated Freight Corridor is that it would mainly be funded by the Japan International Cooperation Agency. So now hopefully you've understood that the Western Dedicated Freight Corridor would be from New Dadri in Uttar Pradesh to New JNPT in Maharashtra, and the Western Dedicated Freight Corridor is mainly funded by the Japan International Cooperation Agency. And now the second main corridor is the Eastern Dedicated Freight Corridor. And if you take a look at the map, the blue colored railway line is the Eastern Dedicated Freight Corridor, which would be from Ludhiana in Punjab to Dankuni in West Bengal. And the Eastern Dedicated Freight Corridor is being mainly funded by the World Bank. And these are the main two facts that you needed to remember with regards to the Eastern Dedicated Freight Corridor, that it is from Ludhiana in Punjab to Dankuni in West Bengal, and it is mainly being funded by the World Bank, wherein both of these aspects provide you the differences between the Western Dedicated Freight Corridor and the Eastern Dedicated Freight Corridor, which would allow you to answer a comparative question between the Western and the Eastern Dedicated Freight Corridor if it is asked in the prelims examination. And apart from this, what else you need to remember for your prelims examination is that Dedicated Freight Corridor Corporation of India Limited has been provided with the responsibility of the construction of these two corridors. So now hopefully you've understood the basic facts with regards to a dedicated freight corridor for your prelims examination. And so now with this, let us move on to the next article. Now we have taken this article from the editorial page on page 9. Now what we'll do with regards to this article is first understand as to what is multi-drug resistant TB. After that, we'll try to understand the focus of this article, which is bedaquiline. And lastly, we'll try to understand as to what is the linking scenario with India. So now let us first understand as to what is multi-drug resistant TB. Now multi-drug resistant TB is a form of TB infection which is caused by bacteria that are resistant to the treatment with at least two of the most powerful first-line anti-TB medications, meaning that this TB infection is resistant to the treatment through isoniazid and rifampicin. And apart from this, some infections of TB are also resistant to second-line medications. And these infections of TBs are called extensively drug-resistant TB. So now hopefully you've gotten a basic understanding as to what is multi-drug resistant TB. And now what this article talks about is that the World Health Organization has suggested that all injectables which are used to treat multi-drug resistant TB should be replaced with a fully oral regimen to treat multi-drug resistant TB. And for this purpose, the World Health Organization has recommended the use of bedaquiline, which is an oral regimen to treat multi-drug resistant TB. However, you also have to understand that this drug, bedaquiline, should be given as a last resort according to the World Health Organization because it is still in phase 3 of clinical trials, and so therefore the effects of the drug bedaquiline is still being tested. Now the reason the World Health Organization has suggested all injectables should be replaced is because injectables cause a serious adverse effect which lead to the discontinuation of this treatment by patients, wherein apart from this, the success rate of this treatment of using injectables is close to 54%, which is very less. And it is within this context that the World Health Organization has recommended the use of the drug bedaquiline, which is an oral regimen, but this drug should be used as a last resort. So now hopefully up till you've understood as to what is multi-drug resistant TB and the focus of this article. Now let us understand the scenario in India. Now as per the Global TB Report of 2017, which is given out by the World Health Organization, India has an estimated 84,000 new multi-drug resistant cases in the year of 2016. Now what has currently been happening is that India has been getting the drug bedaquiline for free under the Conditional Access Program of the USAID. However, this program of providing free bedaquiline drug courses to India will end next year. And therefore, according to the author, the bedaquiline drug is becoming cheaper and its effectiveness and safety has been proven. Although you should also remember that the clinical trials of this drug is still ongoing. And therefore, according to the author, India should waste little time to make the switch to treat all multi-drug resistant TB patients with the drug bedaquiline. So now hopefully up till you've also understood the Indian scenario with regards to multi-drug resistant TB and the bedaquiline drug. Now questions on TB have been continuously asked in the civil service examination, wherein the latest question on TB was asked in the mains examination of 2012, which had asked, what do you understand by the term multi-drug resistant TB and what measures would you advocate for its containment and what are the implications of its spread in the community? Wherein a question for practice is bedaquiline is considered a main treatment for which of the following disease? And you would know from this explanation that the correct answer is A, multi-drug resistant TB.
And now with this, we come to an end in the analysis of today's newspaper. Now we move on to the question for today.